Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Khurram Shahzad, and I'm Senior Customer Success Engineer. Today, we'll be talking about the BPA Best Practice Assessment for the Prisma Access. Let's have a look to the BPA introduction. What is BPA? BPA is a tool which used Panorama's tech support file and analyzed Panorama and the Prisma Access configuration. It shows the current state of the best practices, security adoption, and also suggest specific changes which are needed to align with the security best practices. It helps you to understand how to improve and where to improve security posture. It provides a baseline for comparison and shows you how to transition to the best practices. Why we run best practice assessment? According to Gartner's research, 99% of the breaches through 2023 will be due to misconfigurations, not firewall or flaws in your appliances or equipment. Companies typically implement basic capabilities and they postpone setting up many features which may maximize their protection. Security best practice assessment help you to reduce the attack surface. It will increase your visibility into the network traffic. It helps you to prevent known and unknown attacks, protect what's most valuable to your business, either it's a proprietary source code, sensitive company and customers' data, critical infrastructure, whatever gives your company and your organization a competitive advantage. So it will increase visibility with the results of the BPA best practice assessment. It will help you to increase your visibility and advanced security controls. You can get better adoption of security features. And based on the outcome of that report, you can create a roadmap for increased threat prevention and which will help to improve your security operations over time. How you can transition to the best practices. Getting started with the best practices, run the best practice assessment and evaluate your security posture, and then prioritize improvements based on the outcome. Take the next steps and transition safely to a best practice state without risking availability of critical application. And then run the BP again to measure the progress over time. And then again, prioritize the next set of security improvements. So it's basically you can see here, evaluate security policy adoption, then the best practice configuration, and the changes you have to prioritize based on your need, based on your availability of resources, and then implement those changes. Prisma Access Best Practice Assessment. BPA or Prisma Access BPA or Best Practice Assessment for the Prisma Access is uh, introduced recently. Before that, it was only available for our next-gen firewall through the Panorama tech support file. I will be talking about in our upcoming slides best practice assessment for Panorama managed Prisma Access, and also I will talk about cloud managed best practices checks, how we are doing for the cloud managed test notes as the BPA what we are doing through the Panorama tech support file, but I will explain you. So right now, what I'm talking about in the upcoming slides for this one, this will be specifically for the Panorama managed Prisma Access. Prisma Access BPA reports aims to guide you the Prisma Access security posture. You can generate BPA report using Panorama's tech support file, and I will explain how you can generate the BPA report. It will process the configuration which need to address the Prisma Access features, and then uh, it focus on tracking of feature adoption of security posture. So if you have a Panorama, which you are managing for Prisma Access, as well as your on-prem firewalls. Uh, so through that tech support file, you can specifically generate Prisma Access focused BPA report, which will explain you all the features, best practice adoption of your security features for Prisma Access only. It gives you the ability to track best practices, recommendation, trending summary, graphs at per tenant level. It processes the device groups and template stacks that are configured in the Prisma Access configuration settings, and any parent device groups for the configured device groups in the Prisma Access configurations. What are the features in the Prisma Access BPA report? You can see here, you can filter per tenant level as shown here. A per tenant level, if you are running in a multi-tenant environment, so you can filter per tenant. And deployment, from the deployment type, you can select the deployment type. All means it will consider all of your deployment, and from this drop-down menu, you can select your deployment type. I guess you're specifically talking about the mobile users, remote networks, service connections, and through this heat map trending, you can track adoption over the period of time for each of your tenant. Summary graph made the security compliance framework, such as NIST, critical security control, CIS, and others at per tenant level. And each tenant may have its own business case to implement certain security capabilities. You can filter all those from here. As I mentioned earlier, it gives you more granular information at per tenant level. So from the adoption summary, you can filter per tenant level at each tenant, what is the adoption of your each security capability and security feature. How you can generate the Prisma Access BPA report. There are two ways you can generate Prisma Access BPA report. One is through the customer support portal, and other one is BPA API token. I will explain both of them. And again, I'm specifically talking about here Panorama Managed Prisma Access only. All super user accounts on your CSP or the customer support portal, they automatically have access to run the BPA. If any of user who is not a super user and they want to run the BPA, they should be assigned a role to run the BPA. Standard user profile, to any standard user profile, you can assign a BPA role so that you can run the BPA. For that, in order to assign the role from the customer support portal, you need to log in, click on the manage users here, and then click on the edit standard user whom you want to assign the BPA permission, and then assign this user as a BPA user. Click on this check mark, which will save the settings, and now this user has access to run the BP. Either it's a standard user, but it has now the privileges to run the BPA report. Now, either your super user or a standard user with the BPA role, they can log in and click on the tools, and they will see the best practice assessment. Click here, and then drop your tech support file. You can generate your tech support file from your Panorama, log into your Panorama device, support tech support file, and then you can generate your tech support file from there, and then drop it on here, your tech support file. After drag and drop, it will ask you certain questions to map each zone to the area of architecture. Or you may want, if you want, you can skip this step, or you can run the BPA without the zone mapping as well. But you can select multiple zones or then apply all these settings. The next step is generate the BPA report. You'll see here the industry field where your enterprise or organization belongs to. That it's auto-populate field, but if you can also select from the drop-down menu as well. And one thing very important, BPA report type. Make sure you're selecting here the Prisma Access. As I mentioned earlier, you may have on-prem firewalls which you'll be managing through your single panorama as well as Prisma Access through that panorama, same panorama as well. So by selecting the Prisma Access only, it will only generate the Prisma Access specific report. It will consider all your device group and templates which are specifically associated with the Prisma Access. So if you are not selecting here Prisma Access, your report will not be a Prisma Access focus or Prisma Access specific. Please make sure you're selecting here Prisma Access. Then it will generate your report, and you will see here on the left side that your detailed HTML report has been automatically downloaded on your computer. This is the process how you can generate your BP reports with the customer support portal. Now, next one is how you can generate the Prisma Access BPA report using API token. This API allows you to programmatically generate the BPA data without need to provide an entire TSF. BPA user like you, all the customers, they are able to request the BPA API token. For that, in order to generate that, you need to uh, generate the API token. We have this website here, which is the customer success side, which will be available to you. We can share this link with you. Just click on that. It will ask you to generate API token. Click on that, email me, and you will be getting API token. This API token will be used for authentication, and if you forgot this token and need to request a new one, you need to contact your Palo Alto Networks team to help you generate another API token. After getting this API token, this report can be generated using the BPA API with an application which names the Postman or the Postman collection. So you will download that Postman collection app, which will help you to communicate this API over the HTTPS, which is an additional layer of the security. Once you import that Postman collection, you will see here all the BP details. These are the detailed steps which are available on our live community uh, regarding how you can use this API token and how you can download the Postman collection app. It's a very detailed, each and every step is there. Uh, if you are interested to get to know more details of each and every step, how you can generate the Postman collection app, what are the steps, I'm not going to the detail here, but you can check in our live community and see. If you have any question, do write us on network security cs at paloaltonetworks.com, and we'll be happy to help you. So the Postman collection app will help you to facilitate the workflow. User credentials are used and grabbed as an API key for the target panel's device, and it requires the BPA retrieved from your devices. Uh, and you can see here, all these reports will be generated. It will import all the configuration as per your environment. You will select here BPA token type, device IP, device the usernames, and then click on send. It will provide you the JSON format, but not only JSON format, but if you select here generate a bundle zip, that will generate also a PDF report for you. But initially, it will give you a results in that JSON format, which is a high level, which contains the version number of your BPA, adoption results, and um, if you're selecting the checkbox here from generate a bundle report, you will get a BPA report, and then it will be same report as you will be generating through the CSP. There is no difference at all. But the only help here, you can program through these APIs, and every time you don't need to um, upload a tech support file from your panorama. Okay, So once you have successfully uh, generate your BPA report, either through customer support portal or through the BPI, now let's have a look how you can identify and prioritize the best practices. Using an iterative prioritized approach, you can transform your security posture to the best practice state, one step at a time, making progress as you go at your pace and level of comfort. The result shows that the configuration meets or exceeds the industry's average adoption. For example, the wildfire, antivirus, anti-spyware, DNS sinkhole, vulnerability, and data filtering, but DNS security, all this. The results show that either you are meeting with this industry's uh, average adoption. Results also shows that the configuration does not come up to the industry's average adoption of, for example, the file blocking here, because they have not configured it. So you can see here, there's a three bullets legends. You can see overall adoption, the best practice mode, and industry's average. So there, in this example here, there is overall adoption, but they have not set up in the best practice mode. They're not following the best practices. That's why you can see this green bar graph, green is missing here. And as compared to the industry's adoption average, where they are. The trending page is to check the overall option of your logging capabilities and industry's average adoption of logging. Um, this page not only shows the level of adoption, but also shows you if you have run multiple times your BPA. It also shows a comparison with respect to your previous. And if the profile of the logging result shows that your adoption of all seven capabilities in industry's average, security assurance is enabled at. Evaluate your security policy capabilities adoption. This report shows the current adoption percentage of each matrix. You can see here overall capability adoption, best practice mode, and industry's adoption average. Our next two webinars, which I want to highlight here, are very important, which will be about um, adoption of security capabilities and best practices of security capabilities and features. So very important. I highly encourage you to please sign up for those upcoming webinars, because it will help you to adopt the best practice in adoption of the security policies, because the BPA report will give you um, overall assessment where you are in terms of your adoption and best practices. So those two webinars are really important, which will help you to understand how you can improve your security posture. Identify the gaps in adoption. The heat map shows where your security policy is strong and where there are gaps in security policy capability adoption, so that you can focus on improving. To gain the maximum visibility into traffic and maximum protection against attacks, set goals for security capability adoption and use the recommendation as a best practice baseline. Assess your current posture against the baseline, identify gaps, and it will also help you identify the devices zone and areas where you can improve. And you can use this in the report, you can use the filters um, to review the information on device group, devices zone, and tags to narrow down, identify the gaps. After you identify the gap in security policy capability adoption, use this rule detail view to list the rules that require further investigation or remediation. You can configure the columns to match the gaps that in the previous, and then you develop the identification gaps in adoption. This results in a rule list which you can export and work with your operational team to change whatever the security policy changes required. For example, you can create a rule detail to filter or identify rules that allows all traffic and don't have a vulnerability protection profile. Evaluate best practice configuration. When you change the view from the heat maps to the BPA or the best practices assessment or BPA report, this tab shows you the best practice summary. This summary presents best practice configurations, which check the results mapped to the control categories of the industry standards such as CIS, Center of Internet Security, Critical Security Control, NIST, and the purpose of this information is to provide a good way to learn how the BPA checks tie to the industry standards, not to act as an audit. Like the adoption summary, the best practice summary includes metrics that show you the current adoption rate and adoption progress since the last time you generated the BPA on your Prisma Access. You can click on the mapping definitions to see the complete list of all the map checks and their individual scores. You can set the filters and apply filters to the output, and you can also export all these mappings onto the CSV file. The security rule checks displays rule-based checks. To view the description of any additional, you can just click on this in the question marks here. It will explain you all the description here or what exactly this each check is, and you can see here uh, it gives you detail what is rule enabled, not enabled, pre, post, all the status. Also, each of this link, if you once you generate the report, you will see that each of these check will be having those links to the documentation. Once you click on that, you can get detailed documentation of what exactly this capability is, what exactly each check is examining your configuration, everything. Security role-based checks summarizes the best practice results by device group with the pass-fail status and recommendation for what to do about the failed checks. You can click on this the question mark here to get the details about the what the best practice check is, and also on this icon you can see the camera icon here. Just click on that. It will give you a short quick video about what exactly this is, how you can improve, how what is failing, what this check is all about. The object tab shows all the checks related to different types of Prisma Access or your panorama objects. You can select the object type of what you want to review to understand the existing configurations and also identify the potential gap in the best practice configuration, which are related to the tags, river protect, security profiles, log forwarding, decryption. And for each profile, this report shows the current configurations and how many rules you use by that profile. The report also shows the best practice checks, results, um, and with the current configuration, what's pass fail status, and the recommendation for the failed one. And you can see here the best practice checks, antivirus profile, action fail, and the says the following action need to be set. It also gives you a description. The network tab shows all the checks of the network related configuration. You just select a network you want to review the understand existing configuration and identify the gaps related to the zones configuration, global protect, IPsec crypto, zone protection profiles. Uh, and this report shows you the current configuration of each of the item, and you see left hand side portal, gateway, under the global protect you can see, and each check has a pass fail status and recommendation for the field for the best practices. And the next two tabs you can see here, the device tab and after that the panorama tab. These two tabs shows all the checks related to the device management configuration. You can select a device management check if you want to review and understand the configurations and identify the gaps and the best practices. Each, when you review the device or panorama tab, at a minimum, we should review the dynamic updates, management interface settings, and minimum password complexity. All this information you can view here, and you will see the login banner has been off. Certificate expiration check. Um, Automatically acquire the commit log. It's failing, it's not been set. These are the best practices. It's not following, showing fail, and also recommendations underneath. Panorama tab shows all the checks related to the device management configuration. You can review, understand what are the existing and what are the gaps and best practices you should follow. Now, how you can prioritize the best practice change? Give the four steps. First of all, strengthen the device management posture, improve visibility in the traffic, implement initial best practice control, and then over the period of time, fine tune, enhance the best practice controls. You can strengthen your device management posture secures by the Prisma Access by preventing unauthorized access that could compromise it and reduces the operational impact. Follow the best practices. After you configure the changes, run the BP again to validate those changes and measure the progress. Improve visibility to traffic. This is very important. You can't protect yourself against threats you can't see. You must ensure you have a full visibility to traffic across all the users, application, all time. Complete visibility into the applications, content, and the user on your network is a first step towards informed policy control. Maximize your security policy adoption. After reviewing your adoption summary and identify the gaps, maximize your logging adoption, including the log forwarding across all your security policies and rule base, and configure the best practice for dynamic and for dynamic content updates to ensure that your Prisma Access Panorama has the latest application and threat signatures to protect your network. And plan your SSL decryption deployment based on your best practices. And then implement the initial best practice controls after you gain the visibility and the context into traffic of your network, application, content. Implement strict controls to reduce the attack surface and prevent known and unknown threats to complete the transition to the best practice configuration. And then after you implement control over your network, applications, implement additional functionality to improve your security postures. And then run the BPA again to validate those changes, made the progress, and prioritize the next changes and learn more about the best practices. How you can transition to the best practices. Security profiles enables you to inspect network traffic for threats such as vulnerability exploits, malware, command and control communication, and even unknown threats and prevent them from compromising your network using various types of threat signatures. The glaring weakness of the port-based security policy are well known, and you can't see which application use a port. So any malicious application can gain access to your network on open ports such as port 80, HD or port 53. This makes it easier for the attackers to install the malware, move laterally through your network, exfiltrate the data, and compromise your network because you have no visibility into the application on your network and no ability to prevent the threats that their traffic conceals. In contrast to that, application-based security policy using App ID provides the visibility into the application, regardless of port, protocol, encryption, or evasive attacks. So you know exactly which applications are on your network and you can inspect their traffic threats. So application-specific policies enable safe access because you can configure security policy rules that allow the right users to access the right application. So transition safely to the best practice of security profiles. And the end goal is to reach the best practice state for all your security profiles. However, you need to ensure that availability of your business critical applications. It may not be feasible to implement a full best practice security profile configuration from start. In most cases, you can safely block some signatures, file types, or protocols while alerting on the others until you gain information and confidence to finish the safe transition to best practice security profiles without affecting availability. So earlier what I talked about was a Panorama Managed Prisma Access BPA. Let's have a look on best practice checks in the Cloud Managed Prisma Access. So there is no specific tool for uh, best practice checks or best practice assessment. For the cloud managed, they have the cloud managed Prisma Access. They have a built-in uh, best practice checks, which gives you an inline best practice checks and strengthen security posture. So the best practice guidance is basically aimed to help you to also your security posture, but also help you to manage your environment efficiently. So and this Palo Alto Networks best practices are designed to help you the most out of your Prisma Access and the cloud managed securing your network. So this is built in best practice checks directly into the Prisma Access so you can have a live evaluation of your network. It measures your security rule based checks, security rules, security profiles, anti-spyware, wildfire, antivirus authentication, decryption, and global protect. And you can see here it is a comprehensive best practice assessment. You can see all the field, examine the best practice details, list. So this, if any one of you who's using the cloud managed, they can simply go to the best practice and you will be able to see all of these um, configurations over there. It will give you the inline real-time um, best practices checks for each of your security policy. You just need to go to your log into your hub, go to the Prisma Access app, go to cloud managed and go manage service setup and overview. You will see here the security policy choices here, um, the field security rules, rule-based checks, and all this information will be visible there. And the best practice course, which displays on a feature dashboard, which includes security policy or decryption, URL, um, and this gives you a quick view into your best practice progress at a glance, and you can identify the areas where you need further investigation or you want to take action to improve your security posture. And you can see here the field level checks, which shows exactly where your configuration does not align. You can click here, and each check will give you description, and the best practice guidance is provided in line. You can get a comprehensive view into your how to implement a feature which aligns with the best practices, and you can check the what are the field checks to see where you can make improvements. Rule-based checks highlight configuration changes you can make outside of your individual rules. For example, a policy object that is used across several rules. You can see all this information here. And the best practice report. You can go to the report section on your cloud managed console and you click on the best practice report and you can generate a report. You can also generate download a PDF report like same you have in a BPA from the BPA tool. It will be the same. You can see here there are the four sections: summary, rule base, rules, and profiles. Summary will give you a comprehensive view of all of your failed and passed checks and assess your best practice adoption rate for the key feature areas. Rule bases will look into how your policy is organized, whether it's configured, settings that apply across many rules align with the best practice. Rules will show you the rules failing, the best practices, checks, and where you can take a quick action to fix those failed rules. And rules are sorted based on the session count. You can start by reviewing and updating the rules that are impacting most of your traffic. And the profile tab will show you how your profiles stack up against practices. Profiles perform advanced inspection for the traffic, match to security or a decryption rule. So if you're using the best practices dashboard in Prisma Access, you can filter this report based on the configuration location, mobile users, remote networks that share across Prisma Access. And you can download and share this report in the PDF version also. So we have talked about Prisma Access BPA through the Panorama Managed and Cloud Managed Best Practice Checks. Run the BPA today and see where are the potential gaps in your Prisma Access deployment. If you have any questions, let us know. Ask at network security cs at paloalternetworks.com and we will be happy to help. And you can also find a lot of useful information regarding the best practices BPA, how to generate the BPA for the Prisma Access specific API token, how to generate, and detailed information on our live community. A lot of information. You will find a lot of tips other than the Prisma Access, webinar recordings. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post on live community and you will get update. Also, our tech talks, it has also a lot of information about the BPA, getting started with BPA, how to run BPA, how to interpret the BPA report, um, all those information that are tech doc. So please use all these resources